we'll get started. We'll get started with some introductions. So from an audience standpoint, I want to make sure and introduce our panelists here today. So first, we'll introduce Tiesha Moore. Tiesha has been a CPA for over 20 years. 10 years ago, Tiesha and a few business partners started G3 Electrical. G3 Electrical, they are electrical contractors located in Las Vegas, Nevada, who specialize in commercial and light industrial contracting, operating in the public workspace. Tiesha is the active owner and president at G3. As previously mentioned, Tiesha is a CPA by trade. So when the business started, it was a natural fit for her to be the CFO. And as of 2018, she was promoted to president of the company. Thanks for joining us, Tiesha.
Thank you for having me.
And Taylor Findlay-Scott. Taylor also works at G3 Electrical. She started her career in education. 3 years ago, she saw an opportunity to join a rising star company in Las Vegas, and so she joined the ranks of G3 Electrical. She was originally hired as an accounts admin. After successfully conquering all things accounts, she was promoted to safety coordinator a year ago, and she wears dual hats right now, doing still all account management as well as safety coordinator. And thanks for joining us, Taylor.
Yeah.
And then we've got Tyler Barlow from Wolf Excavating. Throughout the webinar, we'll refer to Wolf Excavating often as TWX. Tyler is the controller at Wolf Excavation, located in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and has been for 5 years. Previous to being at TWX, Tyler has been the business owner and controller at multiple businesses for the past 30 years. TWX has been in business over 20 years. And as previously mentioned, Tyler joined them 5 years ago as the controller. When Tyler joined TWX, they were a smaller operation. They did about $2 million in annual revenue. Over the past 5 years, under Tyler's guidance, TWX has increased their revenue from $2 million to over $20 million in annual revenue. And they're projecting over the next couple of years to get to about $30 million in annual revenue. TWX currently has 65 employees. It owns over $15 million in heavy equipment assets. They do heavy construction equipment, they do heavy construction, including earthwork, utilities, and concrete. As controller, Tyler oversees employees, accounts receivable, payable, production of all financial records, and HR. So I appreciate you joining us as well, Tyler.
You're welcome.
To get started with the webinar, again, the focus today, I want to make sure that the audience, more than anything else, understands the impact that a daily report has had on the business of TWX and has had on the business of G3. More than anything else, if everybody can leave here understanding that they can run a better business, a more profitable business, reduce their liability, and gather more information for a brighter future, that's what we're after. So I think a natural first question would start with you, Tyler, because TWX had been around for 20 years and they hired you as a controller 5 years ago. I'm curious, was TWX, were they already doing a daily report when they hired you?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. And so there wasn't a daily report when you got hired. Was it one of your first initiatives? Did you wait a couple years before you implemented it? Help me understand your process of implementing a daily report.
It was one of the first things that we did to start getting the information brought forward, but it was all by hand. And so yeah, we did that, but it's hard to get that information from the employees on a regular basis. So when BusyBusy come out with their daily report, it was a really good thing, because it makes it so easy to do. But yes, it was one of the first things we did.
And you, as we did the introduction to you, we mentioned that over the past 5 years, TWX has 10 times their annual revenue. I think anybody on this webinar is interested in 10 timesing their revenue. What role did daily reports have in having that revenue impact? Was it small? Was it big? Like, kind of help us understand a little bit
I
more
would
about
say-
daily reports.
I would say that it was a big impact because as you grow, that more information that one person's reviewing, it has to come to that person in a form that they can look at and can look at it. I'm sure that these other panelists would agree to that. That, you know, it's easy to kind of control a smaller operation just kind of in your mind or whatever, but when you get that much going on, you have to have that information laid out for you. And it's, you know, I don't know if this is where you want me to talk about how important it is that you have those reports to just, you know, you make more money, you save mistakes, you know. And I think that information is money. And if you can get that information from your employees on a daily basis, it will generate money. It will increase things. And I don't know how someone runs 65 employees, all these jobs without doing a daily report. I really just don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's interesting with Tyler and his story, Tyler was actually instrumental in us creating a daily report. Tyler reached out to us as he was brought in as a controller at TWX and told us, hey, they've been using BusyBusy a long time. And he just said, look, this is something that I need. I need to make this company more profitable. A quote that was interesting that we had from him years ago is he made the comment that information equals money, because whoever has the most information has the upper hand. So he really pushed us and gave us context at BusyBusy on why we should create a daily report, even when they were smaller and had less employees, that it still was something that was needed. I like the compare and contrast of the two companies that we have on here. It's why we had the two companies as panelists, so that people could get different perspectives. Tiesha, your story's a little different because you're one of the original founders of G3. So tell me, as someone that was there from the beginning, when did you realize daily reports were important? When did you implement them, and why did you implement them?
So we've just been using daily reports for about a year now. And I definitely agree with Tyler that information is key. And the reason why we started using them was because of a project that we were on. And the owner of the project required information that was never required of us before. At that time, about a year ago, we used them. We kind of used them passively. We, would use them as needed or as asked. In the past year, we've had several other owners ask for that information as well. But again, like I said, it was kind of passive. We started with BusyBusy. I think it was maybe April or May that we started doing them digitally, because at that point a year ago, we were doing them by hand. It was on paper, and we all know that paper gets lost. So Taylor is the one that kind of collected that information. And so she would, fight to get information, especially in a timely manner that, with the BusyBusy daily reports, we get instantly. So back to the point that we were using them passively, over the summer in July, we realized that they need to be exactly what they are. They need to be used exactly how they should be daily. We kind of missed on that. So our daily reports, we were using them sometimes. So I wouldn't even say we were using them every day. Whenever we kind of felt appropriate, like, hey, we need to make sure we get information for X, Y, and Z. And it ended up costing us. It saved us, but it ended up costing us. We were working with the GC that we had worked with in the past before, had done several projects with them in the past before, change order that we had signed off on. And that daily report saved us and defended us for some of the hours, but our lack of keeping them for every single day, that ended up costing us too. So unfortunately, we had to learn that lesson, but I definitely agree, especially when you have so many moving parts, when you have multiple employees and you're doing business, having that information is so critical, and having it on a daily basis is it just gives you more control of what's going on, and to be able to look back and see exactly what's happening at a specific time.
Okay, so tell me a little more about that. So you've got a situation, you've been doing daily reports for a year.
Mhm.
And like you said, a little sporadic.
Yeah.
Um, in July, because it's always there's always a trigger, right? Like what motivates somebody to actually change behavior. So in July, you started doing them religiously. So now you're doing them every single day on every single project. A little bit more color, if you will, just help us understand, like when the GC, I guess, because we're all contractors on here, everybody's resonating with the fact that it's like, okay, so you lost some money, you also saved some money. Can you expound on that a little bit more, help us understand what happened and why daily report was a good thing, but it would have been way better if you were doing it daily, is how I understood it?
Yes. So there was time that they questioned, and we could defend that time that we had the daily report for. We had it right there in writing. It was super detailed as to what was happening. But for those those hours that were in question where we didn't have any backup for, we couldn't defend it. So, I mean, we could go back and it was historical. By the time they asked us for that information, we were almost into October. So the project was done at that point. And so it just kind of, for us, it was kind of a wake up. And so I won't say in July is when we realized it. It was in more of October when we realized, like, oh, shoot, we were keeping, and we were thinking like, oh yeah, well, we have the dailies. Let's go and pull those dailies. And we realized like, oh wait, we didn't have it for every single day. We only had it for certain days. So
And you were only protected on the days you had it,
yeah,
and the days you didn't, you ended up
yeah, where
losing.
we could justify show in black and white. Even the photos that are in there, we weren't utilizing the photos at that time. We are now, but even that information is huge. And had we been doing that at that time, we would have been able to protect ourselves 100% for the that project.
Right. And that's our motivation from the busy side of things. I mean, our CEO owns 5 different construction companies, and it's all about reducing that liability and making sure that you have the information to back yourself. I think the thing that's most frustrating about that story, because we hear it time and time again as we meet with contractors every day, is it's somebody that you had worked with in the past, had a previous relationship, and then all of a sudden you're upside down on a job because your guys were there, but it was partially documented. And so again, like Tyler, you pointed out, information is king there. So Tiesha, building a little bit more, just because I want to make sure that the audience is people, I'm sure there are people on this webinar who are currently doing dailies, and then there's others who are hoping to understand why they should do them. But for those who are doing them, but they want to get better at it, and for those who are attending this, who are currently doing it on paper, what was your reason to move from doing a paper daily to a digital daily?
Well, we kind of stumbled up on it. We've been using BusyBusy for 5 or 6 years now. And I want to say in April or May, we just kind of stumbled upon it. We knew that we had to provide information for a project that we were on, and just kind of looked and said, oh, there's daily reports in BusyBusy. And that's kind of where we were like, oh, this is great. It was during coronavirus time, during the whole shutdown. Here in Las Vegas, the construction industry was considered essential, so we were able to continue to work, but our team was moved to working remotely. And that just kind of made it so much easier than for us to try to have to meet the guys to get that information that we needed to turn around within a day. So that's how we got to the digital point of doing the daily reports digitally. And at that point, it was night and day. Having paper where you've got to track somebody down, coffee stains on paper, you got to send that off to somebody. Like, that's just not professional. That's not the way that we want to come off, but sometimes that's all you have. But at this point, we don't have to worry about, are we going to lose some paper? Has somebody lost it? Did they put it? Is it in the side of somebody's van? Like, it's right there for us. And so I think it was kind of like a no-brainer. Once we knew that there was that digital platform out there, we didn't look back and say, well, maybe we should do papers. No, it was just we didn't have it. And then once we had it, it was just kind of a no-brainer to move forward to the digital platform.
on you on the business owner side, I'm sure it was easy for you to make that decision. What about you, Taylor? You're the one that's actually dealing with the daily, moving from paper to digital. I mean, you're the one trying to read through the coffee stains, right?
Right. Yeah, I am the one sending the reports off. And so I agree, the convenience and the upper hand that the digital has is way better than the paper. As Tiesha mentioned before, especially when we all got shut down, I'm not having to try and meet the guys or hunt them down to get my paper copies. And then I did have an issue with, sending papers over and you maybe can't read the names or description too well. It's very scribbled on, it's wrinkled, it has dirt on it. They're out in the field, these are guys, they're working, but I have to send that over to someone and I'm just like, I don't want to look like this, but what can I do? I can't change it.
Yeah.
But with the daily, the digital through BusyBusy, the guys can put their notes in and everything is in one spot for them. It's easy to send it off to me. They don't have to track me down. I don't have to track them down or hassle them for it. And it's neat, it's clean, it's neat. I can clean it up if I need to, like just make sure that the grammar flows and the verbiage is correct. So the digital helps a lot. It helps a lot.
So jumping over to Tyler. Tyler, I know the people that are on this webinar, there's owners, there's controllers, there's office admins. When we're looking at implementing a daily report, almost every contractor that we talk to has thought about it. Some people have tried it. Can you speak a little bit? I think the best way to go about it would be helping people understand. I mean, you've been doing this for 5 years, collecting daily reports. We've had our product out just under a year now, but through the whole process of paper and then getting digital, do you have a couple circumstances that you could share on when a daily report has helped your business, making it worth the effort of pushing your people to get that report in every day?
Well, for sure. And the effort of getting a daily report every day, meaning daily report, is really good. And getting your employees to be consistent with it is very, very important. And what the two ladies here was talking about is you can ask someone to do that, but if it isn't convenient for them to do it, then they won't do it. And then you're missing holes in it.
Yeah.
Then what you can prove, what you can't, you're in trouble. But if you can get something that's just consistent every single day, then you have the power to change the way things are going with your company. And I say accurate information is the vehicle to profitability.
Mm-hmm.
Accurate information, and sometimes that information doesn't make any money, but still having an accurate picture for those decision makers when they get ready to do it is the way you make money. We've had situations where our daily report saved us money, and we've had situations where it's cost us a lot of money. One of the things in our industry is there's, I don't know what it is in your states, but over here it's called Okie 811, where you call before you dig, and you're supposed to get they're called line strikes.
Yeah.
And if you can get that information documented at the time that happens, if something bad happens, then because you ain't going to hear about it. You won't hear about it for 6 months. And all of a sudden you get an invoice in the mail from AT&T that says you hit our line, say 6 months ago on December the 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can go into your daily reports and you can pull that up, and there it is, there's pictures and there's everything that happened, then you can go back to them and say, well, we don't feel like this is our fault or whatever, or the superintendent told us this, or whatever happened. Sometimes you just have to write out the check, but sometimes it's not your fault and you can save money. So that's saved us money in many situations. There's another situation where we, a year later, someone come along and their project wasn't draining properly. And they said, what about this drain? You didn't put it in right here, and that's why it's not working. We was able to go back to our daily report. There was pictures attached to that daily report on the day that they did it. That shows the drain right there before it was buried up. And in 3 clicks of my computer button, I was able to solve a potentially $20,000 problem. Because if I hadn't have had that, they would have says, come on out, dig it up and prove that you put that in there.
Yeah.
And so we'd have had to go do that. And so I would say that daily reports are a must in a business. I don't see how somebody doesn't do them.
Tiesha shared a really good example as far as a situation where on a project, she both saved a bunch of money by having some dailies, lost a bunch of money by not having it consistent every day. So you just spoke about the situation where it saved $10,000 to $20,000 in effort of having to dig something up just to find out that a drain's already there. What about over a 5-year period? Any situation, have you guys been so consistently good, you've never had a miss, or has there been a situation where you missed on having the daily and it cost you by, with the type of work that you guys do in earthwork, any type of compaction or soil testing or anything that way that you could share that helps people understand the other side of it, of people who may not be doing it daily right now?
Yeah, we had a project where the compaction failed, it caved in. And so they brought us in and they said it's because you didn't have it compacted properly. And we did not have the information on our daily reports that proved that it did. The owner of the company and the people on the ground remember doing it. They remembered them coming out and doing it, but it just never got written down anywhere. And we ended up having to go replace that. And it cost us $50,000. And we just, there's no way that you cannot go solve your problem. Because your relationships are worth more sometimes than $50,000. So, that hurt. And, it does make it so that when you're sitting around the boardroom that you say, look, we're going to do these daily reports and everybody's going to do them. But then when you turn around, you have to have a vehicle so that the guys will actually do those daily reports. And that's why this BusyBusy product is valuable, because it is so simple. It's just slick and easy to do. They've got some improving to do, but they're on it. I'm sure they'll be talking to me and Tiesha about what they need to do better. And, I think that there's a lot of things, like, for instance, the safety module. I'm sure they're going to be adding that in soon. That would be real handy to have that attached.
Yes.
So that you have your toolbox topic stuff. And, there's sky's the limit on what this could do, but
Yeah.
having a daily report I would say is golden.
Yeah.
I told Tyler before this webinar he could be honest. So no, the primary thing that he's referring to there is something that we'll be having in January, which is the ability, and Taylor doesn't even know this yet, but Tyler was pushing me on it last time that we had spoken, but the ability to polish those reports on web so that they come in and be able to access them on web. Right now it's a heavily mobile feature, so it's done heavily on cell phones, and we primarily roll our features out that way because then we get feedback from our thousands of clients. We've got over 30,000 contractors that are using our product every single day. And so there's a lot of power in us rolling a feature out on mobile, getting a bunch of feedback, making some iterations, and then releasing it out on web. And so we'll be releasing that in January. That will allow you to access those reports in web and have some more fun with it there. So as far as going through a daily report, one of the things I'm sure people on this call are thinking in their mind is, well, that's really good. Yeah, you guys have a daily and you've been doing it long enough. Like, Tiesha, take me back to when you very first started. Did you have any pushback when you first rolled it out?
Very first started doing the daily reports?
Yeah, sorry, not the business, the actual daily report. When you started the daily report, did you have pushback?
For the most part, as long as it's easy for the guys to do, then no. So when we first started and it's on paper, that's always hard because there's the pushback, whether it's intentional or not, of getting that information from them. So if they're out in the field, then we need to get that information from them, in a timely manner. So as that one was a little bit more difficult to um, get that timely. When it's in BusyBusy, it's very easy. It's very smooth. And like Tyler explained, as long as it's smooth and easy for them to provide that information for, we haven't experienced that pushback.
Okay. And the priority for us, of course, is making sure if somebody starts doing a daily report, we want to make sure they're getting value immediately so they keep doing it. Did you, when you did the daily report, did you get some immediate value out of it?
Us for sure. Yes. Yes, we can. We didn't do them before. So now that we do them, it's great to be able to go back and see historical information, to be able to cover ourselves. Like I said, in July, we had that situation there. We couldn't prove on some days, and some days we could. So that covering ourselves, making sure that we are protecting what we work so hard for, the fact that we are doing work on a project and to not be able to get paid for a portion of it, that sucks. So being able to defend that, it gives us a better feeling, but then also to be able to go back and look at that information to say, okay, well, what did we do? How long did it take for us to get here? And we do go back and look at those projects that we worked on over the summer or a month ago and just say, okay, what did this take from us? What did we need to do on that? How did we get there? And so we can go back to that information with such detail that we wouldn't have had if we didn't have the daily reports.
Well, and that's when I originally reached out to you and said, hey, we're going to do a daily report webinar. And I've noticed that you guys use it well. I'd like to, what do you think about joining and helping other contractors understand why you do it and what the value is? One of the things I thought was interesting in our conversation was you had made the comment that you loved the reports in BusyBusy to see all the project activity, but it wasn't until you started doing the daily reports, and this was your CPA brain coming out, but you're like, I like exact information on an exact day. I'd like to be able to go back because, yeah, seeing an entire summary of a project is one thing, but really drilling down to it, information on a certain day. And I thought that was really, really well said. So to get in a position where our audience can hear from both Tyler and Tiesha summarizing what a daily report has done for your business, a couple things that you did to implement it, why you implemented it, why you would encourage others to implement it. Tyler, I'd start with you and just ask you, can you help the audience understand some of the things that a daily report does for you, for TW?
It basically gives someone the ability to review information that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do because they're not out there doing it.
Yeah.
It gives one controller or one HR person an oversight of many different jobs and positions. It's also a way to check back to see somebody didn't show up for work or whatever. Did that? Were they on the job? What did they do? Did they leave early? Whatever the problems are. We had one situation where someone came in and claimed that they were hurt, 5 days ago. I said, why didn't you talk to your deal? But if you had that daily report and they documented, oh, Sergio slipped and fell today, then you would have that information. Or if it's not there, you'd say, well, why didn't you put that information on your daily report? See, so it's that information is in too many ways so important that it makes no sense not to have a daily report every single day, and as fancy as you can get them to do it, as much information as you can get them to do. Tell them it's their artwork. They're painting a picture about what happened. The sky was blue and everybody was happy and I was mad and the superintendent spilled his coffee, and everything that you can possibly put on that realistically makes it better and better for everybody. We took these deliveries, whatever happens.
And we have heard that from a lot of contractors, what you're describing, that a lot of the supervisors really start to take pride in it, that it becomes part of the reflection of who they are and the job that they're doing. And so documenting some of that stuff, material documentation, showing when loads of rebar pulled up to a job site. We've been told stories of, we had a contractor that saved over $10,000 on a material dispute, because they quickly took the photos, uploaded it in the daily, and they were able to access that later and show that the rebar wasn't delivered that they had said. So yeah,
Well,
I think that a lot of times if you've got the right employees, that they will start to take a lot of pride in it.
Well, and for the employee's perspective, it's their protection too.
Yeah.
If they can document that they did certain things or that they progressed a certain distance, say they're supposed to get something done today, and they get that done and document it, and then later they can't get in trouble for not having done what they did. Nobody can see that. So it's good for the employee too, or the superintendents, to be able to document what's going on their job. And it's for their protection too.
Well, and it's interesting you say that. That's one of the things that I think a lot of people are starting to realize more and more with software, with an app like BusyBusy, is that it can be conflict resolution for an employee or for an employer, because it protects both sides. The GPS protects both sides, a daily report, and then also from a customer to a client, your subs versus your GCs, each person. So ultimately, you don't have to be a he said, she said. It's all resolved based on what the technology is actually providing the information there. And so, yeah, really, really cyclical relationship. We hear from a lot of clients that the relationship of employee and employer has improved when they've started doing daily reports, because it's exactly what you're describing, Tyler, where people take a lot of pride in it. They have information, they're protected. Another thing I think a lot of people probably don't realize, as you referenced the daily report, is that at the end of every day when employees clock out, that we can capture on clock out whether they were or were not injured. And that non-injury report is what you referenced, that saves a company hundreds of thousands of dollars on a workers' comp report, because you have it documented that he didn't slip and fall 5 days ago. And that was one of the big things in us talking to construction attorneys that they had said, is most of these construction companies are getting very, very good at documenting injuries. Where they're failing is when they're not documenting injuries, that they're documenting the health of their employees to protect themselves so someone can't come back. You mentioned the person who had reported that they had slipped. How many days after did that happen, Tyler?
It was a week later that he came in to my office and said that he had gotten hurt.
Gotcha. And the payout on that was
Around $100,000.
And
by the time it was done, I mean, they go to the doctor, and then the doctor starts the process. And by the time they're done, anybody that's had a workers' comp claim knows how that can affect everything.
Yeah.
It affects your insurance rates. It affects your, people not wanting to give you a job because you have accidents, just everything it affects. And so you want to manage that really, really close.
Yeah. And you can on clock out, that non-injury report will do that for you right inside the BusyBusy product, so that you've got that available at any time. On the daily report side, so Taylor, you're the part of G3, you're the glue of the daily report, if you will. Okay.
Yeah, I say that.
So I'd like the audience to understand a little bit as far as the process. People are here and they're going, okay, I want to do this daily. Help me understand a little bit, when Tiesha makes the comment that you polish the daily report, what do you do? Your supervisor does the actual report out in the field, right? Can you walk us through the process so that people can kind of day one launch it and be successful with it?
Yeah, for sure. So it's actually very simple, which I love. The guy's in the field, so he'll go and enter his notes and photos into notes and photos, the proper project. When I go to that project and I pull up the daily report, there's nothing I have to do. So I would say there really isn't much of a process. I click on his notes, I click on his photos, they automatically generate. There is a safety blurb in there. I'll type up something, no employees have had any injuries or hazards, or today they held their safety meeting. And as mentioned previously, there is a toggle to where they can say if they've been injured or not. They can also say if their time is correct or not. But that's pretty much all that I do. Once I upload, get their paragraph in there, I clean it up a little bit, add a little conjunctions like but, and, to, or, because they're just typing it away. And that's pretty much it. And I sent it off. I can tell you what my process is not, and it's not hunting down papers or trying to smooth them out, going to do a bunch of scans, trying to figure out whose photos are where. That is no longer a process of mine. So the BusyBusy application is a big help. And I think it helps the guys too. Actually, I want to mention earlier, I think they're more inclined to write more information because they don't have to scribble it out. And a lot of them talk to text. And I think that's a big help for them as well, because it's simple for them. As we mentioned earlier, again, as long as it's easy and they can just drop it and go in one place, that's it.
So I had asked, and I'm showing you all the attendees here right now, but I had asked G3 for a comparison of the daily reports that they had done previously versus what they were doing now. So that's what you're looking at, was the paper experience that Taylor so fondly speaks of, and this is versus the digital experience. And as Taylor's describing what they do, so one of the things I think that's important for people to understand here is TWX and G3 do the daily reports differently. TWX has their supervisors do the full daily report out in the field. They save it, they PDF it, it's stored on BusyBusy, and it's in the office. G3 has the supervisors provide all the information, all the photos and everything's uploaded. Because we're already tracking time inside the product, it aggregates the employees, shows everybody on the job site. Taylor mentioned it shows injuries, non-injuries, time signed off, not, you got your material and all of that. So then what she does is she's in the office and she takes that information and then puts it into a PDF and signs it off to the GC. So multiple ways that you can do it based on the way that you want to structure your company. And we have client success people here who are happy to help set that up. Lastly, just wanted to understand from a daily report standpoint, of course, this webinar is all about why contractors should start using a daily report. Everything from liability to profitability. Like, there's so much that it can accomplish if people will start doing it. Tiesha, if you could go back in time and tell yourself why you should start doing a daily report 10 years ago, give me a reason why your company or any company on this should start using them. Give them some pitfalls, how easy or hard it is, what's the value. Just speak on that a little bit if you don't mind.
I think that's a lot. I mean, when I look back at 10 years ago, and if I were to look and say, you know what, let me go and pull and see what happened 5 years ago on X, Y, and Z project, I have to first think, okay, what box is it in the office? And then I've got to get down to the office and sift through that and hope that I have something for that particular day. That has happened to us. That has happened to us on a project where we're like, oh, let's see what happened. We're going to bid for this job. It's very similar to what we did already, same owner, blah, blah, blah. Let's go back through, and we're sifting through papers. Like today, in this day, where everything is digital. And so right now, I guess my question would be, why not? Like, with everything that the time that it saves, as Taylor said, that, she doesn't have to collect something that's got coffee stains on it, whatever.
Right.
That it just doesn't look like something that I would want to ever send off to anybody if we needed to, but that's kind of all we had. And then also hoping that information was accurate, that we did have, as we have somebody that's out in the field. Maybe it is, but maybe it isn't enough. Maybe it isn't enough for us to really do anything with that information. So what I will say is, and I agree with Tyler, that just having that information at your fingertips, being able to go back and look at that information, it does add up to money. It really does add up to money. And I look and see, for the last 9 years, that all of that, we have it, but it's still, it's not easily accessible. As we pull this report for you, the one is the BusyBusy report, and the other one is the paper report. We got the BusyBusy report a lot faster. It was very easy for us to retrieve that for you. And like, yeah, we can get that over to you. The report that was done by hand, by paper, we happen to have an electronic copy of it because Taylor ended up emailing it over to the GC. But I'm going to tell you that when I thought about it, I was kind of hesitating. I know her, in her eyes, in her mind, she was like, why did you say that we'll send that over to them?
Yeah, mini panic. Like, why would you say we'll find the reports? You know how much time that's going to take? But
Right.
even here you can see their description of work is just, I'm not even sure what that says, to be honest with you.
Right. And so even though we do have a way to maintain our files electronically, I still have to go into that electronic file, sift through that, versus me just going into BusyBusy, clicking on the job and having those daily reports. It's just night and day.
Cool. Thank you. So everybody that attended the webinar, hopefully you've extracted some value out of it. You understand a little bit about how the daily report has impacted these businesses. I will talk to Tyler, Tiesha, and Taylor and find out. They may be willing to even answer some additional questions if you have any as you want to launch it. But more importantly, we are here. We've got an entire client success team that we can help you launch this daily report, that we can help guide you through it. What we're going to do is, as we wrap up this webinar, is we will send you an email right after, and that email will have a link that you can schedule a meeting. So we've got a lot of current clients on this webinar, and then we also have a lot of potential clients on this webinar. So if you currently use BusyBusy, there will be a different link for you to schedule an appointment with our client success team, and they will help you walk through this feature, help you launch it. And then for someone who is not currently using BusyBusy, we'll have you meet with our account executive group, where they will make sure that you take a look at the product, show you how the daily report works and how it works with the other key elements of the time tracking and the injury reports, the safety information, and all of that. So we'll be sending that email out here in the next 5 to 10 minutes. And then later today, we will also send out a recording of this webinar to everybody, so that if you have other coworkers that you would like to watch it, if this is something that you've been pushing in as an agenda, but you need to get other people on the bandwagon, hopefully this is really helpful. We'll also post it on YouTube, so there will be a link available there if you go to the YouTube channel. But I again couldn't be more grateful for Tyler, Tiesha, and Taylor, the three
T's.
for joining us today and helping people understand the true impact that a daily report can have, because it's not something that should be overlooked. I think so many times as contractors, and we know this, everybody gets so busy working in their business that they fail to take some time to work on their business. And a daily report can help you do that, and the impact on profitability will sometimes be measurable and sometimes immeasurable because of the things that you avoid that would have been losses, and then opportunities for gain. So we look forward to helping everybody on here, and feel free to share the webinar as you see fit, and you guys have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.